The cold hard truth is this: Connor McDavid was not ready to be a Stanley Cup champion just yet. Michael McLean, brassballsvideos.com. I am an ex-professional hockey coach, ex-amateur championship hockey coach, turned 8-figure entrepreneur, husband, father, small business owner just like you. You can actually download a free copy of my brand new book, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next Month. It's a free digital download. The link is below, brassballsvideos.com. My free gift to you. A word of warning first. Admittedly, my brand new book is not every entrepreneur's cup of whiskey. It's for champions, not chumps. It's for winners, not whiners. So caution below, Brass Balls Videos. So I shot a video last week about the Florida Panthers Edmonton Oilers Game 7. And I shot a video talking about what Coach Paul Maurice would do, the head coach of the Florida Panthers, what Maurice would have to do if the Panthers were going to be able to win Game 7, and more importantly, change the movie in their head. We all have a movie constantly running in our mind, positive or negative. And in this situation, Florida had lost 3 straight games after taking a 3-love lead in the series. So they were choking, they were flinching. And to his credit, Paul Maurice was able to use the 2 days off between Game 6 and 7. They returned to Florida. He did an outstanding job of getting his team prepared, giving his goaltender a day off, and changing the movie in their heads. So eventually, Florida won Game 7 and won the Stanley Cup. I just wanted to share some of my behind-the-scenes comments on the series in Game 7. I've been on both sides of that in minor, pro, and amateur, where I've had teams that we blew a 3-0 lead. I've coached teams where we were down 3-0 and the heavy favorites came back to Game 7 and blew it in Game 7. I've won Game 7, lost Game 7, and it's a unique experience, and it's all right here. It's all right here, win or lose. I was really impressed with Connor McDavid. I thought that he took his game to the next level. The guy is a winner. I've known that player since he was 10 years old. He's won World Junior Championships. He'll win an Olympic gold once the NHL players go back to the Olympics. It's just a matter of time if they surround him with the right group of players. It's only a matter of time until he wins a Stanley Cup. The only way Connor McDavid will not win a Stanley Cup is if the people around him don't provide him with the players, the supporting cast. The same thing happened in Chicago with the Bulls. When you're a generational player like a Michael Jordan or a Connor McDavid or a Sidney Crosby, automatically you're drafted to the worst team or one of the worst teams. And I remember the Jordan stories where the first year in Chicago, he was like, oh my God, what is this? I mean, he was used to playing for a coaching legend like Dean Smith in Carolina. And, he goes to the worst franchise in the NBA. Same thing, Mario Lemieux went to the worst franchise when he went to Pittsburgh. Sidney Crosby, when he was drafted first overall, went to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They were bankrupt. Lemieux was the owner and trying to make it work. So that's just part of the deal. So Connor McDavid went to the Oilers. They've struggled for a number of years. They finally got the right pieces around him. They made a coaching change this year, and they were able to get to the finals. So now the question is, can they add the character and the grit around him to take that next step? Connor McDavid is never going to be the issue. I mean, he's a cleaner, he's a closer, he's a guy who can automatically get the job done if he's given another opportunity. But you have to admit the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy in professional sports to win. So, I mean, you take Connor McDavid out of that series and there's no contest. I have to tip my hat to the Florida Panthers. We live in Naples half the year, so where the Panthers play is about an hour and 15 minutes in Sunrise from where we live. And the job that the new ownership has done in South Florida, it all starts at the top, right? Doesn't matter if it's a jewelry store, a hockey team, a car wash, a contracting company, a pizzeria, a restaurant. It all starts at the top. And when it comes to the Florida Panthers, when that team was first in Florida, it was a disaster. I mean, they were the laughing stock of the NHL. They were irrelevant in South Florida. They didn't have an arena. They played where the Heat played. You know, they're in Miami. They're like nobody even knows. And questionable ownership. They didn't have an arena to play in. And the team, you know, so-so. And what the new owners have done, building that beautiful arena in Sunrise and building this thing. I have a rule, right? A badass rule that I talk about. It's my 10-year rule. Don't start anything in your life, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's walking, whether it's eating clean, whether it's learning copywriting, whether it's shooting videos. I don't care what it is. If you're not going to do it every day for 10 years, don't bother starting. You're a whiner and a complainer and a pretender. As my grandfather said, there's no shortcuts to anywhere worth going. Well, guess what? You're never going to build anything, certainly nothing with sustaining power. You might get a cheap win. You might get some dopamine hits. You might get some cut the corners, but there's no place worth going that you can take a shortcut to. I don't care if it's a hockey team, an NFL team, your business, your health, your marriage. There's no shortcuts to anywhere worth going. So the Florida Panthers did this. They built it the decade way. They thought their goals were a decade long. None of this, you know, sugar high or crack cocaine high of, you know, we're going to do this and it's going to be a hack or a shortcut. That's all you see in 2024. It's so simple now to be great because all you have to do is do what nobody else is willing to do, which is do the work over a decade. Think, you know, marathon, not sprint. Think blocking and tackling like Vince Lombardi. Do it the right way, blocking and tackling. Build something real that has a foundation that'll last. And then you'll build a dynasty. You'll build an empire. You'll build a dynasty. And that's what the Panthers did. They deserve to win the Stanley Cup. I said that before Game 7. I was hopeful. Game could have went either way. When you have Connor McDavid in a game, your chances of winning are exponential. But I just believed that franchise, starting at the ownership level, deserved to win. And they beat all the best teams. They beat Tampa Bay. They beat Carolina. They beat the Rangers. They beat all the best teams. And then they beat the Oilers. So a tip of the hat to that ownership, a tip of the hat to that president and general manager, and a tip of the hat to their coach, Paul Maurice. They built it over 10 years. And now they're starting to gradually build something important where now they're becoming relevant. It hasn't happened overnight. It's still a micro niche in South Florida. But now they're being talked about. And it was interesting because Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, this was his wet dream. Because the NBA was a disaster. The final was a disaster. The NFL hasn't started. College ball hasn't started. Baseball. They had the stage to themselves for a number of days, especially for Game 7. So when you turn on ESPN or you turn on talk radio or you turn on any of these stations south of the border, the NHL in this game 7 had the stage. You can't put a price on that exposure to the person who's like, wow, this is exciting. I've never really watched a hockey game before. But I just feel that watching Connor McDavid, I mean, the guy he's an absolute badass king. I just felt the look on his face when he was sitting on the bench and they had lost. They had finally lost. The look on the face of his mom and dad who were in the crowd. And I saw that literally despair. Like, it's beyond sick to your stomach. It's beyond frustration. It's beyond anger. It's almost like he's suffering the loss of somebody that had died. When I saw that face, when I saw his parents in the crowd, I'm like, that's a guy that now has the fuel to finish this mission. And I think that both teams were on a mission, but I believe in my heart that Florida didn't have a plan B. That's a big one. I believe that Florida had burned the boats going to the finals the year before. They have a bunch of free agents. They got some guys that won't be returning. They had beaten all the best teams. They had finished second the year before. They knew what it was like Connor, to sit on that bench. And second is last. Nobody even remembers that they went to the finals the year before, but they did. And that suffering is the gasoline and the fuel to take your life to the next level, for them to lift Lord Stanley's Cup. And I just think that Edmonton had an escape hatch. They don't win Game 7. Back deep in their mind and their mentality, we can do this again. This is the first of many trips. I think that after they lost the Game 6 in Edmonton, I really think that the Florida Panthers then it was like, this is everything, Game 7, because we will not be back. We're not going to be able to play another 105 games, 107 games. We've paid such a physical, emotional, and mental price going to the finals the last 2 years. If we don't do this, we're the Buffalo Bills going to the Super Bowl 4 times, but we're only going to do it twice. And people will talk about how we choked it away. They'll talk about how we flinched it away. So I believe that going into Game 7, Maurice had this literally almost scared energy where he was able to harness it as fuel. When they scored first, that was massive. Between you and me and the fence post, I thought Maurice outcoached the Edmonton head coach in Game 7. That wasn't the case all throughout the series. I believe that Maurice did a better job of coaching in Game 7, which makes sense. He's got 30 years of experience, and Knobloch was in his first few months as a head coach. I believe coaching was a factor. But I just think the difference between having a plan B and not having a plan B is the difference in a mission. Your mission, my mission. If we just have that where we can step back if we don't win, and it's okay. If we don't do the work today, it's okay. I think that's a massive, massive safety net that just kills us. Now, whether Edmonton returns to the final or not, like Florida had that massive suffering from the year before. I've been in those lines where you shake hands in the finals and you played all the games and you went through all the injuries and all the critics and all the doubters, and you're this close to putting a ring on your finger and you got nothing to show for it. You've got nothing to show for it. And I remember standing on the ice one time after we lost in the finals before we won a championship eventually, and all I could think about standing there watching the other team celebrate is, we got to start again from scratch tomorrow. In junior hockey, you're replacing half your team. I was just like, oh my God. And the despair and the frustration. You want to talk about sick to your stomach. And, you know, you got graduating players, you got players that are aging out. And I was just like, man, we did this almost for nothing. And that's the gasoline and that's the dark side fuel that will serve you. It can kill you, it can corrupt you, it can defeat you. But guys like Connor McDavid, guys like Michael Jordan, remember Jordan coming back from baseball and they got their asses whooped by the Shaq and Orlando Magic, right? And Jordan didn't have time to get in basketball shape. But he went to Phil, his head coach, and he went to the general manager of the Bulls, and he said, we need somebody to get us the ball, to rebound the ball. We got knocked around. We got killed underneath the rim. And they went out and they got Dennis Rodman with Jordan's blessing. He's like, we need to get tougher. It's like when Jordan lost to the Pistons. Bill Lambert and these guys are beating the shit. Rodman and the guys are beating the shit out of Jordan. That's when he hired Tim Grover as his strength and conditioning coach. He's like, I'm sick and tired of getting pushed around physically. I got to get stronger. I got to get bigger. I got to get more intimidating. And that's what Tim Grover did. And eventually, they finally broke through and beat the Detroit Pistons, but they couldn't up to that point. They pushed Jordan around. They abused him. So he did something about it. So the same thing here for Connor McDavid. I really hope that they continue to put some more character and grit around him. They're not good enough yet. You know, second place is not good enough yet. But there's a guy who can finally bring a Stanley Cup back to the great white north. And it's been 2 decades. So I think that he's got the fuel. He's got the gasoline. Now it's a question of, can the people around him build the supporting cast that's necessary? So happy for Paul Maurice. I've known Paul as a coach when he started coaching at age 20, 21 in junior. He's paid the price. He's moved around. He's put in the 14, 16-hour days. He finally got an opportunity 2 years ago. They lost. Then they get the opportunity. Couldn't happen to a better guy. And wonderful, wonderful thing for South Florida in growing the game and the sport of hockey. And in my opinion, you got to suffer. I don't care if your name's Jordan or your name's Lemieux or your name is Bird or your name is Magic Johnson or your name is Montana. I don't care who it is, Babe Ruth. You got to suffer first so that you can kick through that glass ceiling and finally put a championship ring on your finger. That's the reason that the Florida Panthers are the 2024 Stanley Cup champions. They earned it. They deserved it. From the owner trickling all the way down, a decade mission accomplished. If you'd like to get out of your rut, get out of your funk, or maybe you're just not happy with the first 6 months of your year, if that's the case, put Panthers, write Panthers in the comment below, and I'll put you on a notification list. There's no obligation. Notification list for my brand new mastermind I'm starting in August. I took a year off from masterminds. If you're interested in learning more about them when I'm ready, just put Panthers in the comment below, and Marc-Andre, my business partner, will send you some details in a week or two when we have some details. There's no obligation. I don't care whether you join or not. It's going to be $9.97 a month. It's going to be a monthly thing. It's the only way you get one-on-one coaching with yours unruly. If you like my videos, but you've hit a plateau and you want to scale your life and business to the moon and you want my help doing it, I'm starting up a Badass Brotherhood, 25 men. This August we're going to begin. Just put Panthers in the comments below and I'll add you to the notification list. Then in a couple weeks you can say hell yeah or hell no, and it's perfectly okay either way. So download my book below for free, or let me know about the mastermind by putting Panthers in the comments. I appreciate any comments. I appreciate your likes, and I appreciate you sharing my videos. If you want to pay the tax, if you find some value in these things, please share the wealth and pay the tax. I'm happy to keep shooting these videos every single day for free to help you finally build the life of your dreams that you never need to escape from, and help you finally live life and do business on your own terms. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change yours. Be relentless.